Hello, awesome people. I hope you're having an amazing day today. Today we're taking a look at Joe Dever's Shadow on the Sand, published in the mid-'80s. It finishes the first 5 books of the Kai trilogy. We'll be looking at the definitive edition here that we'll be taking a look at here for you. It's a 400-page epic in the gamebook Lone Wolf series. It was heavily read when it was and devoured, and we're going to be looking at the recently published definitive edition, but just published a couple months ago over in the UK. So we are going to be doing a deep dive into this series, and this is the last definitive edition one. So I'll probably, I know the next book in this series, Kingdom of Terror, is coming out like soon, definitive edition. You can pre-order it. So I'll probably put a pause on the Dynasty and wait for the definitive edition to come out, rather than just reading the rest of them and so forth. This series and the whole Lone Wolf stuff was put online on a website called Project Aeon, which I will link you to in the comments below in case you just want to read it yourself. It was, the game books were a big thing, in the 80s and early 90s, but there was a time when it stopped selling, and in fact, Joe Dever was only able to publish 29 books of a planned 32, although 3 more have been published since then. With the last one to come out here in a little bit. But there you are. So he went ahead, as a Millennium gift and gave them away for free to all the folks. You can read them online on a website called Project Aeon. Also, other books in this series, not in the world rather, not in this series by other authors, like The World of Greyhawk in Southern Magnum, starring a young wizard, are also online, as well as books that he wrote that weren't set in this series or world. So that way you can read some other things by Joe Dever, like this post-apocalyptic one, for example. There's a game book series in those. So game books are basically a choose-your-own-adventure book where you're playing the game. You're fighting, you're collecting items, you're so forth. So you start this in Light from the Dark, the first book in the series, and was published in 1984. And then you create a character that's a psychic ranger, if you will, and you can choose 10 out of the possible 10 skills, 5. And 4 of those are psychics. A mental attack is called Mind Blast you can take, which increases your combat skill. You can take a mental defense against mental attacks called Mind Shield. You can move things telepathically with Mind Over Matter. You can detect things supernaturally with Sixth Sense. And then the other 6 are rangery in nature. Animal kinship, befriending animals. Weapon skill, the ability to fight, which also adds to your combat skill if you have the right weapon that you have that skill in. And then hunting, which allows you to stalk things and grab meals so you don't have to eat from your backpack. Tracking, which enables you to track various things. Camouflage, so you can hide. And then healing, so you can heal. There is a veteran's challenge in these things. Healing normally lets you heal 1 hit point per combat, per section that you're in, outside of combat. But there's a veterans challenge in the definitive edition. It says only do 10 per if you're up for it, and I have done all 5 of these books now. I started with the veterans challenge, and in this book there are 2 adventures in it, so I wasn't sure if you were supposed to, it says per adventure, not per book. So I said just 10 per for the entire thing, and I still survived, only gaining 10 hit points from healing. And so forth. So the first book, the basic plot line is that you are a survivor of an assault on the Kai Monastery by these big bads, the Dark Lords of Heldigad, which is nearby. You haven't been at war in a long time. But now you have to go from the Kai Monastery to the capital of your nation, Summerland, in this dark time when it's being attacked by all these bad guys, and war has just erupted. So that's the first book. Now, the first book in the definitive edition is pretty thick. I've got it here for you so you can kind of see how thick it is. It adds. The original book only had about 300 sections in it, so it's 50 less than the other ones that came afterwards, and the ones that would come a lot later on in the Magna Kai series. And it started off with you getting knocked unconscious while you see the Kai Monastery being attacked when you're out there collecting firewood because you are a bad Kai, and so you are knocked unconscious because you're just not paying attention, and you hit a tree branch very heroic, and then you're knocked unconscious, and so you're the only survivor. And now you've got to become the new only Kai. So it picks upon you to type. Here you're actually in the definitive edition, in an epic 2-hour-long thing with the hundreds of sections that were added to it. You are now fighting the siege of the Kai Monastery, which is a little bit different. Also, it adds in some surprises in case you're a veteran reader of the series who's gone back to it a few times on Project Aeon, like I have. The next 3 books in this series are just 350 sections each. They didn't add a whole bunch of other things, so I only gave them the 7 I would have given the initial book. But this one, the Flight from the Dark, the first one I gave an 8 to. I would have given it a 6 originally because it was Joe Devers' first. It was a bit uneven. It was 50 pages less. Right, again, the non-heroic start to a hero's career. Right. Now all that epic thing, I think they moved it from a 6 to an 8. But this one I'm also going to be giving a 7 to, but it's my favorite 7 because it's thicker, it's denser. It took me longer to read than the first string, although there's 50 pages longer. I'm sorry, 50 sections rather, so that makes sense. It's separated into 2 adventures. So this is more of a 7 plus, so it's like a 7.2 or a 7.3 or 7.4 if I'm running down to a 7. In the second book, after you have gone, you are going, since all the Kai are dead, and you're being besieged by the big bads, including a Dark Lord himself, you're going to go to a nearby nation that's an ally of yours and grab the Deus Ex Machina of a Summer Sword and bring it back. And you're going to be attacked a lot on your way there and a lot on your way back. And then you'll bring back the Summer Sword and defeat the big bad. That's the second book. The third book, you are sent to the icy wastelands of Cult, where the nasty summer-landing traitor Vanatar has fled, and you're going to bring him back to justice. That's the third book. The fourth book, you are sent to a province in southern Summerland called Roanum, because some people have gone missing and haven't reported, and the king sent a unit of his royal cavalry, led by Duval, and they haven't reported either. So now he's sending a troop of rangers led by you down there to find out what's happening. So that's the fourth book. And then when you find out what's happening, you got to save this stuff from happening. Some big bad stuff are about to happen. So you got to kill a big bad at the end. End of book 4. Book 5, you are sent on a peace envoy by a nation called Basagonia, which is not always a nice place, right? So a peace envoy by the older Zakan is a nice thing, so you are being sent over there to go sign a peace envoy. You'll find out, surprise, it's a trap. The envoy will, the Zakan will die while you are en route, and the new person is not friendly to someone, and you'll be attacked. And then you'll have to survive and flee, arrive at the palace, and then you'll find out that the Dark Lords and one of the Dark Lord leaders is here in Vasagonia, and they are digging in an ancient tomb for the Book of the Magna Kai, which will let you, because you're a Kai initiate. You start off with, and you'll become a Kai master. Well, the next level are the Magna Kai, but without the masters to teach them, you wouldn't have learned that. But now you can find the Book of the Magna Kai and begin a new Kai order. So now in the second half of this novel, you're now questing for the Book of the Magna Kai and trying to find out where that goes. And that's basically what's happening in Book 5 and in the series coming up to it. It's a lot of fun. This book series is loved by a lot because it's kind of the first game book series that lets you keep a character and the items and the skills and combat skill and the endurance points and the items that you find and the gold that you find and the skills that you have, and you grab another skill going into each book. So I come into book with 9 out of 10 skills, which is a lot of fun stuff. This has a cohesive story. It sort of ends in book 12 of the Magna Kai series. And then there's a Grand Master series from 13 to 20, and then a new order comes. Except for you've set up the new order, Lone Wolf has, and then you will step aside and you'll make way for a new person starting in book 21 through book 32. And then that new person is sort of the New Order series. So there are 4 separate series within the 32. This is the conclusion of the first 5, which concludes with the Book of Magna Kai search for it. Again, it's a lot of fun. A lot of people really love this stuff. If you've never heard of it or you want to go back to it, it's a lot of fun. It's also nice picking this up on hardcover. Softcover books that it was initially published with take a lot of beating from a game book or any second adventure where you're changing from one page to another. from a second person. Because you're moving from one page to another, to another, to another. And for example, in this book, you're fighting combats and rolling die 10s. And then you got to take it, you got to roll die 10, and you got to move to the chart and say, okay, this is what my combat ratio is, this is what my number is, so here's how much damage I'm taking, here's how much damage my enemy's taking. All right, let me roll again, let me look up the chart again, right? You're doing a lot of those sorts of things with the book. You're moving back and forth from section to section to section to section. So these books can take a lot of abuse. So hardcover, nice print is definitely something fun. Now, I have mentioned that the Flight from the Dark from the first book adds a lot more, and you can see it's a lot thicker than this one, which is even 50 sections rather, longer than another one. But this was also $5, well, pounds actually, more online. So to be fair, right, it is actually more expensive, which is probably one of the reasons why it is. So to be fair, but I have mentioned that before, so I wanted to show that to you. This is beloved, and you can read it online, so you don't have to spend any money. You can just download the things and have a lot of fun. Have you read any of the books in the definitive edition? This book, the collector's edition of this book, the original version, which I talk about in the spoilers below? I would be happy to engage you with it further in the comments below, whatever your thoughts are. If you enjoyed this video, hey, why not hit that subscribe button? There's going to be a lot more of these to follow. And then finally, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and investing and watching my video. We all have so many things that are happening in our lives, and we're pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me is incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.